I think it's a good sim because again, when I grade a sim, see, first of all, you have to understand that with the kind of effort that you guys are putting, nothing is going to be difficult for you guys. I'm assuming all of you would be 100% prepared before you sit for the paper. So, what demarcates a person who clears the paper? A person who clears the paper with very good grades and a person who does not make it through. The only delta is the emotional question, guys. Remember, how do you manage your time? How do you manage your trap? So, when I judge a sim, I judge it on the basis of the number of traps. Okay, so if you go back to the contribution, charitable contribution sim that we did last time. In fact, I don't know how many of you took the last exam that I set. Was there anybody who took the last exam that I set for adjustments? Anybody here? I was surprised to know that there was an area. Vishnu, do you remember? Unmute yourself. Vishnu, do you remember you asked me a question? Is there a possibility that you're giving more than one article as a charity? And the number and the amount can go beyond 50% of AGI. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
There is a situation like that. I have given it to you in your MCQ. Please, I hope you'll be able to track it when you see that MCQ. But yes, there is a possibility. We are going to talk about it after you have attempted the quest. Okay. So be mindful of these unique situations because that would be thrown. So I think in terms of that, it's an easy sim, but it is a sim with a lot of traps. So when I choose a sim, I choose a sim which has some conceptual understanding, same time a lot of traps to help you understand that these are also AI CPA sims. Okay. So this is a sim where you're going to talk about the AGI. So let's look at the question. Review the items for each independent situation for separate taxpayers shown in column A. So I look at this. Okay, so they've given me 5 different scenarios. Now look at it. Ideally, guys, you will not get this sims alone. The testlet where you have these sims, there will be 2, 3, 4 more sims because these are small testlets. But that also means that you've got to be very, very attentive and careful because these smaller sims are more dangerous than bigger ones. Okay? So, first of all, each of these are independent scenarios. I register it in my mind and enter the appropriate amount of the taxpayer's AGI reflect. So, what they want me to enter is AGI. This is important. This is what I have to input. Reflected on Form 1040. All taxpayers file their Form 1040 using the tax filing status of SET. Now, this is important because if I don't take this data, I might go incorrect. So remember, they're asking me to give them the AGI. That means it's gross income. And from there, I'm going to take the adjustments. And what I'm going to get is AGI. That means one data I can earmark from here, which is ignore itemized deduction items. Anything to do below the line, I'm going to ignore it. Okay. Assume that each taxpayer's initial calculation of gross income is 68. So I'm going to start with $68,000, which includes no capital gains and losses before considering the situations below. So what they've given me is they've given me the gross income figure. They've given me some items. You can either have some additional gross income or exclusion from gross income or an adjustment figure. I have to adjust all of that and arrive at the AGI. Enter all amounts as positive whole numbers, so no decimals, no negatives. And if the amount is 0, I'm not leaving anything blank. By this time, my mind is prepared for this. Now, I'm not going to give you answers for these. Okay, I want you guys to give me the answer. So my starting point is a figure of 68,000. Tell me what would be the answer for the first one. $6,000 self-employed health insurance. So I know that my adjustments is what? Wise as him. So this is my whistleblower and discrimination cases attorney fees. This is my IRA income. This is my self-employed 3 things. Health insurance premium, uh, self-employed retirement, and self-employed taxes. This was my educator expenses. Now this should be on my fingertips, guys, okay? A is alimony deduction. S is student loan interest deduction. H is health savings account deduction. I is interest withdrawal penalty deduction. And this is miscellaneous. Typically, I'm going to talk about uh, M is what? Moving expenses, right? Which has been removed now. What was M, guys? Wise as him. What was M? M was moving expenses, isn't it? That is no longer applicable now. Is that correct or what was it? Yeah. So I know also the limits here. Educator is 300 or 600. Student loan interest is 2500. I also know from here that the phase off will be applicable in IRA. And I think phase off was there in the student loan interest expense. So I need to know this data, right? What are the adjustment items? What are the figures? What are the limits? And what items are phase outs applicable? With this, I go to the first one. Can anybody tell me what will be the AGI for the first figure? I have paid self employed health insurance premium. I have paid self employment taxes. And I've also had some unreimbursed non business casualty loss, which was incurred in a federally declared disaster area. Now, first, when you see this in your mind, you have to say, is it an adjustment? Yes, no. Everybody, if you guys are not trying, then there's no point of me taking this sim, guys. If I have to give you the answer, then I might just give it to you in the uh, at home. Why, why we don't need to discuss it? Anybody? Nobody. Okay, out of all of these three, can you tell me which is the item that I'm going to ignore because it's not an adjustment item? I'm going to ignore this because it is not an adjustment item. It is itemized deduction. Karsten, unmute yourself. Ritika, what's wrong? You guys have not finished so much till now?
तो I'm typing साथ साथ में.
No, but if you have to be very alert. If even now you are not preparing with that much of seriousness, I find it very difficult for you guys to save this. Karsten, what about you? Have you done this?
Um, yeah, I wrote no. 1 and 3 is not, you have to exclude them.
What's the answer? I'm just trying to alert you guys that if even if now, see, it's been 1 month now, this is the last week of the first month. If by now also you're not able to catch up with the pace of the class, then it will be very difficult for you to sit for the paper in the month of April. Very good. No. So I started with $68,000. I will remove full self-employed. So this is the S of wise as him. 100% self-health insurance premium by a self-employed individual, and half of the FICA taxes will be allowed as a deduction. So I'll reduce 4,500 and I'll reduce the health insurance premium, and the answer is not given by anybody. The answer is not correctly given by anybody in this group. I think the answer is 57,500. These are simple questions, guys. These are not very difficult questions. But if you're not able to understand these questions after having done the MCQs, then you need to understand that you're boxing the concepts. You're not having a fluid state where you can connect the concepts and learn. So then you have to be mindful that I need to be able to transition from one concept to the other concept without putting them in very tight boxes. Because if you're not able to do that, you will not, you will be very good with MCQs, but you will find yourself faltering when you look at the sims. Okay? Especially so in regulations, since these are concepts which are driven by law. It's very easy. All you need to do is have the law on your fingertips. That's the first requirement. If you don't know what goes in adjustment, what is a provision, you cannot go to the next step. Have the law on your fingertips, know exactly what the provisions are, and then be very alert of this fluid nature. They can give you some itemized deduction here. You should know, I have this approach even when we do audit. when I'm in the audit, it's like I can visualize from which area to audit and which area I'm going, to and from which state I am in. And I can exactly say, okay, this is what the ask of the question is. So imagine, again, this is a very strange example that I'm giving you, but somehow these visualizations help. Imagine you're in a factory floor, okay? And if you see most beautifully done factories, they're very efficient in utilization of space and how the movement of goods happen. So the input would go from one place and the output will ultimately have from the other outlet, which will be very near to the loading area. Okay. So it's something like the weighment area where the inputs would come. So the best example that I have in my mind is a cigarettes factory. Even if you look at the various other factories, whichever factory you've ever gone. So think Tesla, I don't know, this guy is doing a lot of wonders in designing his workplaces. He wants to bring up all the production back in the US, right? So think of it like this. You should be able to know, okay, this is the room. So I'm giving the example of a cigarettes factory. You have a cut tobacco coming from one region, and then the tobacco goes, it's dried, cut tobacco comes in, it's cut, and then there's somewhere there's a so imagine in your mental mind through the various stages, imagine that there are chambers, and you're going from one chamber to the other chamber to the other chamber, and finally there's a finished product. In every sum of any discipline that you have, you should exactly know which chamber you are in and what is relevant to you right now. So think of it like an individual taxation. I've started from gross income, inclusion, exclusion. I went to adjustments, I went to AGI, then I go to itemized deductions or standard deduction, whichever is higher. Then I go to QBI, then I come at taxable income, then I apply the slab rates, then I have the regular income tax versus AMTI. I take the higher of the two, I add up all my other taxes, I reduce the credits, and I reduce the payments, I get a tax refund. So where am I here? They want me to stop. They want me to stop immediately after probably the cigarette rolling has happened, probably. So I will not think of anything beyond that. Imagine all of those chambers are black chambers for me. They're all walls and I cannot see those walls. So I'm only supposed to see till here. So if they give me any data from outside my this current state, I will ignore that data. So that becomes a very important part of. So for that, you need to first have the provision so well at your fingertips that you don't get confused whether this is adjustment, whether this is itemized reduction. And the moment you're confused, there you're gone. Then, very importantly, if whenever you look at the sim, you're 100% there in that sim, and you're telling yourself, okay, I'm here in AGI. This is not AGI. So I'm ignoring it. Now go to the next sim, guys. Okay. Again, I start with $68,000. Now I contribute to a Roth IRA. All that theory of Roth IRA is now common sense to me. There's a remittance of jury duty paid to the employer. Okay. And there was a penalty on early withdrawal of certificate of deposit. Tell me how many of these. So first question is, are these adjustment items? So either they have to be adjustment item or they have to be exclusions of income to be taken out of the $68,000. Okay. Now tell me what is the answer for this one. Anybody? What is the answer for the third row? This should be an easy question if you know the provisions really well. Okay. So Kannan, I'm assuming you're going to take this out, right? Because you've taken interest withdrawal penalty. You remember I told you that there are some others which we have not included in our data, but a jury duty pay reimbursement is also allowed as a deduction as a part of adjustments. This will also be taken as a deduction. Mitali, you have just taken 2000, which is illogical. Why will you not take interest withdrawal penalty?
Sorry, ma'am, I forgot that you have to
No, so
take.
this is not forget. See, you have to understand that there are no silly mistakes. It's a pattern that so the sooner you realize your pattern of the brain, you have to just rewire. Your brain is wired in a certain way because you're not hard any other way. Now you're going to rewire your brain. And it is going to take time if we have time. Do you understand that? Okay,
Yes,
come
ma'am.
again. A contribution to a Roth IRA. Is it a deductible item? Yes, no. Contribution to a Roth IRA. Is it a deductible item? Yes, no. Everybody? Contribution to a Roth. Carsten, unmute. Contribution to a Roth IRA. Is it deductible,
No,
non-deductible?
it's actually not, ma'am. It's not that.
Only it's a traditional deductible IRA which is deductible. Okay, Karsten, I want to talk to you after the class. Okay? I think you're just burdening yourself. Forget about things that you're not doing. When you're in the class, just follow everything that is done in the class. Trust me, you are intelligent enough to answer every question rightly. Even if what we're doing in the class, you're 100% sure. This is not a deductible item. Traditional deductible IRA is the only figure which is deductible. So from here, I'm going to reduce my Judy duty pay and I'm going to reduce my an early withdrawal penalty. Tell me what's the answer. I think this must be 67,620. Is this clear? These are difficult sim, guys. I understand you will not get all sims like this in your exam, but that's the reason why we are spending the class time in discussing it. You need to be prepared, and they're going to give you everything strewn in together. The idea is not to challenge you intellectually. The idea is to know how much has muscle memory picked up. How much are you able to take for granted and not question? And then, in the exam hall, you're thinking, oh, where was the interest withdrawal penalty? Was it here? You're gone. When you do it so well, so in regulation, trust me, MCQs are important, but only when you're understanding the concept. Sims are important because you need to know how to apply these concepts. But the master, the hero, is the law itself. So even if you're attending all my classes and if you're taking note of the PPTs done in the class, because we are giving you 100% of the law, ideally there are so 100% of the law is as is testable in C. The only reason why you want you to do more and more MCQ is so that you internalize that law. But understand the hero is the material. So if you're able to take that part and just keep it. So the key is so whatever we've discussed, when you do 50 MCQs from there, that part becomes a nature, that becomes a habit. You don't doubt yourself. And if you keep on revising what we're doing in the class and be aware of the concept that if you're not able to correlate the Roth IRA with the traditional IRA, your brain is not picking up the data in a coherent manner when you're mixing the concepts. So be aware of that. And now when you're solving the MCQs, try to stretch it, both the sides. How you think of the question is more important than solving 100 more questions. Okay, I'm not trying to judge here. Every individual is different and everybody can clear the CPA exam. Your situation is different to somebody else's situation. Understand what is it that you are good at, understand what is it that you have to work. So if people have 400 hours and you have only 40 hours, does not mean you will not be able to clear the paper. It just means you've got to be smarter than the others to utilize your 40 hours. And remember, the key is what you think about yourself. If you think that you have to solve 400 hours worth of data only, then you will clear CPA. Then you have lost the game even today. Know what is good with you and stick to that goodness and trust yourself. Then only you'll be able to clear the paper because half of that baggage is here. Handle it here and you'll be able to excel in your sims. I'm not joking. Now look at the next one. Go slow. You have started with $68,000. 24,000 is the amount of a traditional IRA that was rolled over to another traditional IRA in a direct trustee to trustee transfer within 50 days. Now, see, I don't know so much about this. I have read it. I knew it was there. It's not right now in the top of my eye. And that's where the hidden concepts comes in. I know if the money flowed from one traditional deductible IRA to another traditional IRA, nothing came to me. So ideally, this does not look like a taxable item because I've just changed my employer and I changed my IRA plan. And the moment they've used the words within 50 days, that means I think they followed the law. I'm going to ignore this. There has been a gambling loss incurred and no winnings were reported. What do I do with this? There was an unreimbursed classroom supplies where the taxpayer is an eligible educator. Tell me what would be the answer for the third row. I mean the fourth row here. What would be the answer for the fourth row here, guys? How many of you are now like, there's something seriously wrong? I'm not able to understand any question. Karsten, again you rushed. No, I will not take this. I will not take this because this is not an adjustment item. Kannan, where are you getting this? You cannot take this because I've just moved money from my IRAs. Another traditional to another traditional. Very good. It's only this one that I have to take. Karsten, you forgot the E, right? Till $300 per person per year is allowed as a deduction. So it is 68,000 minus 200, which is $67,800. Now go to the next question. We start with 68,000 as the AGI, as the gross income. There's a loss on sale of personal use automobile. Okay, it's a personal loss. The moment I hear personal, I know it's itemized deduction. There's a contribution to the capital of an S corporation. I don't know yet about S corporation, but if I'm putting money, it's a flow through entity. I don't think that's going to be taxable. And no deduction I'm going to get here. There's a write off of a worthless non business. So I know nothing about this actually, guys. What do I do now? What is your best guess? This is the area where I'm going to start calculating the figures. I'm going to start guessing because I know nothing about this till now. Can anybody tell me what is your best guess from here? Best guess. Very good. Very, very good. Karsten, unmute. Why? Explain.
The $3,000, ma'am, is a capital loss that you can take as a deduction.
But this is a
Uh,
non-business loan, na?
yeah. Uh,
I mean, you're correct. Okay. I'm just trying to
it's a
confirm whether I
non-business
have
bad debt,
something.
actually, is what it is.
Yeah. See, again, this is
So,
not something which we cover that much in details in CPA, but just to give you an idea of how this works. The moment you have a bad debt, you need to ask yourself, is it a partial or a full bad debt? In business case, it doesn't matter whatever is the amount of bad debt, but remember, not provision. It's an actual write-off. Okay, this is actual write-off, not provision. So if it's a business bad debt, I don't care whether it is half, whether it is full. No, this is not cancellation of debt. Okay, Kannan, the moment you use COD, it's actually more referred to the principle, to the income concept when you're accepting that money. Here we'll use the word bad debt or expected credit losses. If it's a non-business bad debt, okay, then ideally it has to be fully worthless. If it is partially worthless, it is not allowed as a deduction. So remember, partial non-business debt losses not allowed as deduction. It has to be fully worthless, in which case it is regarded as short-term capital loss. Okay, so this is a provision which is not there. We don't discuss it in as much of details in CPA, but ideally, even if I don't know anything, it does make me feel as if it may be a figure that is excluded from my income. And this is something that I would not blame you if you get it wrong. Okay, but I know this, when you do S corporation, you'll realize that these are not regarded as deductions. And personal use automobile losses are not, even if they take it, it's not here, it is a part of itemized deduction. Yeah, Mitali, one second. So this is a slide that I borrowed from my EA sections. But remember, or not, but I don't think they're going to dig that deep in your CPA papers. But remember this. Okay. So in this case, it will be 68,000 minus 3,000, which is 65,000, which is the answer. And then we have the last question. I please want to get the right answer here. Once I want to get the right answer from you guys. And you're capable of doing it. The best part is all of you are very intelligent and you can do it. Please follow the class lectures, guys. Even if you're not able to do the MCQs, please follow the card. Make the content the hero. Trust me, the kind of questions that we're choosing in the class, the MCQs, the Sims, even if you do only that and you're able to trust yourself, you would be in a very good shape to clear your exam. But that, you cannot compromise on that. Okay. So here we start with 68,000 again. But now we have a student loan interest paid. There is no phase out here in this case. There's a cash inheritance that I received from a relative's estate. And this was some prior year state income tax that was paid in the current year. What are you going to do about this, guys? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? See, student loan interest, I know it's taxable because the maximum was 2,500. So I'm going to deduct student loan interest expense. Cash received is never allowed as a deduction. You've received money, so you're not going to add it. Recipient does not add anything when it is inheritance. More clarity on this when we go to capital gains. Uh, State income taxes paid are allowed as a deduction, but not before, not above the line, but below the line. And I know that the cap is $10,000 and it will be a part of my itemized deduction. So this will be below the line. I cannot ignore it. But for this question, the factory place where I am in, I cannot see what is beyond me. So I will just deduct the first one, which is student loan interest expense, and I'm going to get 66,400 as an adjustment. Is this clear to everybody? See, I'm not saying you will get the exact same question in the exam, but if you understand the concepts behind this sim, I'm pretty sure you can do any sim that would come from adjustments, gross income, or taxable income. You know the provisions really well. Now, the same sim I could ask you in different ways. I can give you some data about the gross income rather than giving you 68,000. So, if I want to stretch it this side, I'll give you some more data about the gross income. I can convert it into a DRS sim, or I can convert it into a wrong sim, giving you, okay, out of all of this data, this is what the client has taken. Tell me what is wrong and then correct it. Same sim can be converted to a review sim, can be converted to a DRS sim, can be converted into a sim where I give you all of these items and then they tell you, okay, how much of it is above the line, how much of it is below the line. So do 10 sims, but do it so well that you can imagine 100 more scenarios out of those 10 sims. And the provisions have to be really understood well.